In life, he led the armies of his Centaurian brethren, but now, in death, he leads an army of nightmares. This is Karador, Ghost Chieftain. Karador costs a whopping 5 colorless, 1 black, 1 green, and 1 white mana for a measly 3 power, 4 toughness general. His stats may be lacking in terms of power when compared to other 8-drops, but you have to remember that while he was alive, Karador was an actual commander of armies. He may have lost his flesh and blood, but in death, Karador has found the power to raise armies of the dead to do his bidding. Karador has 2 relevant abilities. His first allows us to play him at a reduced cost, with his cost being reduced by 1 colorless mana for each creature in our graveyard. His second ability allows us to basically use our graveyard as though it were part of our hand, with Karador allowing us to cast 1 creature spell from the graveyard on each of our turns. These 2 abilities are blatantly synergistic to a Reanimator strategy. We want a graveyard full of creatures to make both Karador cost less and give him more options as to what to bring back. I've been playing Karador since he was first printed back in 2011. He can be incredibly resilient and provide us with reusable reanimation. I've seen lists featuring him built around anything from Abzan good stuff to Boonweaver giant combo. You can really cater him to how you want to make him play. So now that we've gone over what he does, let's look at some good cards that'll help him bring about the best undead army a Centaur could ask for. Creatures are incredibly important for Karador, as we want them both to make him cost less and give him access to more answers in our graveyard. To this end, I would advocate running creatures with spell-like effects on them. Wood Elves, Farhaven Elf, and Sakura Tribe Elder can all be used to replace things like Farseek, Cultivate, and Kadama's Reach. We get their Enter the Battlefield trigger and then promptly can sacrifice them for additional value to something like Viscera Seer. Gaining a land, scrying for 1, and reducing the cost of our commander is an irreplaceable utility, and Sorcery Speed spells can hardly match that. The deck will also want to run strong Leave the Battlefield effects. Archon of Justice is a great example of this. Although he provides us with no initial benefit upon casting him, his triggered ability upon death is extremely versatile. Being able to utilize his exiling effect more than once is just gravy. Kokusho the Evening Star, also known as Cocoa Puffs, is similar to Archon in that he only does something when he dies, but that's about where the comparison stops, as his drain ability just begs to be used repeatedly and obnoxiously. Machias the Unhallowed acts as a pseudo-anthem with the added benefit of giving a hefty chunk of our creature base undying. With him and Karador on the field, you can sometimes get 3 Enter the Battlefield effects for only the cost of casting the creature twice. Hermit Druid is probably the most popular, and usually killed the fastest, way to fill up your graveyard. His cheap cost comes with a fragile body, but if you can get a few activations, or sometimes just 1 depending on how you've built your deck, you can usually give yourself a commanding lead of the game. Since we're going to want to be running such a heavy creature base, probably between 35 and 38 creatures ideally, the remaining cards need to be a cut above the rest to really make it into our 99. Survival of the Fittest is the great example of why cards just deserve to be banned in constructed formats. Don't get me wrong, I've got one in my list and I love it, but the amount of power this one card can add to a Reanimation deck is astounding. Being able to dump multiple creatures and create a chain of resurrection effects to bring them all out, or resolving a living death, can often win you the game on the spot, and Survival of the Fittest helps us get there. Similarly, Pernicious Deeds is a great board wipe which can be used to clear out smaller stuff and leave only our big fatties around. It has the added bonus of being recurable by Sun Titan, a trait I often try to maintain for all of my non-creature related permanents in this deck. You'll also want to run a few resurrection enchantments. Animate Dead, Dance of the Dead, and Necromancy easily fill this role and are affordable both in terms of mana cost and the cost on your wallet. I found Crucible of Worlds can be very impactful in a graveyard-based deck. As we'll be dredging through our own library, we can often find ourselves bidding important and powerful lands. We can't always rely on Sun Titan to bring them back, so having this redundancy is nice. Oblivion Stone is another great answer-all for the deck. It passes the Sun Titan check and can act as Rattlesnake to keep players honest as long as they want to keep their permanents around. Lastly, Skull Clamp can ramp those early sacrifices into huge card drawing advantage, and it also passes the Sun Titan check to boot. Entomb is probably the best instant for this deck. I'm pretty sure I don't need to explain why being able to get any card from your library and putting it into your graveyard at the end of an opponent's turn is considered good. I also like Beast Within, as it's a great instant speed answer to an otherwise lethal attack, or a way to blow up a combo piece at instant speed. Now, I mentioned Dredge earlier on, but the only true Dredge card I run is Life from the Loam. Life acts like another Crucible of Worlds with the added bonus of sometimes dredging cards when we need it, but use it cautiously. I found in my meta that people quickly wised up to my graveyard shenanigans and started running hate cards after the first game or two. As a result, I had to move away from going all in with Dredge for a more focused and control approach. Buried Alive is another great card, but one that needs to be used carefully. I warn because you need to be careful with cards like Rest in Peace and Tormod's Crypt existing in the format. You don't want to put those 3 creatures in only to get them exiled immediately. Otherwise, getting 3 of your best creatures or 3 of your best answers for only 3 mana is a worthy card for a spot in our deck. I've had good success with Liliana the Veil, but I've seen conflicting reports on running her. Her price tag is probably enough to keep most people away, but if you've got one since back when she was in Standard, and therefore slightly more affordable, she can be a great discard outlet or removal. Well everybody, I hope you enjoyed this video on one of my favorite graveyard-based commanders. Karador's resilience and color spectrum have earned him a spot in my top 3 favorite EDH decks, and I hope you enjoyed my perspective on him. Let me know what you think of the new format of these videos, and until next time, thank you for watching, and be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe.